Hey folks, sorry about the lighting. The morning filming here isn't all that great. It just isn't. It's better in the afternoon or when the sun comes up a little bit further, but it is what it is. I just want to remind people that, and I have to remind myself too, and people have to remind me that, life is way too short and times are hard, times are going to get worse. We can see what's coming, and we're just trying to get ahead, but most of us are just trying to keep up, right? So I just want to remind everybody that if you don't take care of yourself, you're doing this all for naught, right? You might have a wife, you might have children, you have loved ones that, well, if I go trying to get everything set up, then they will be all set. Well, they might be, but they're not going to be all set if they need you in their lives, right? So we need to remind ourselves of that. I need to remind myself of that as well. And I've taken some corrective action here. If my body tells me that it needs to rest for more than a few minutes, I am going to rest. Because I didn't create my homestead here to, well, one, it's fun, right? It's a challenge, and I'm learning an awful lot. I learn something new every day. But I didn't build my homestead for somebody else to enjoy, or for somebody to say, well, that's too much work. I can't do that, and we're just going to let it go. I didn't do that. So if I'm going to enjoy what I have worked so hard for, and I am going to reap the rewards of what I worked so hard for, then part of my responsibility is to take care of myself so I can continue doing that, right? Now, sometimes I feel awfully guilty for just going in and allowing myself to sit in the recliner because I fall asleep when I sit in the recliner. Sometimes I allow myself to do that, and my body really, really thanks me for it. My mind thanks me for it. My spirit thanks me for it. Everything thanks me for it. So I'm getting ahead in the end. So I just want to remind people that we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to make sure that we're also living, because if you run a homestead, you know that you can never ever get caught up. There's always something that happens. There's always babies that come off. There's always something that, like a rat could come into your coop, or a weasel, or an owl. Nothing is guaranteed, right? We can do everything that we can to prevent all that stuff, but nature is nature, and nature has a purpose. The owls, the fox, the rats, they need to eat just like we do, but I am not going to encourage them. I am going to discourage them. And just like me, I work for my food. They need to work for their food as well. We need to take care of ourselves, because nobody is going to know when we need to rest more than our body and mind are telling us to do that, right? So we just got to listen. We've got to listen to our bodies. And if something doesn't get done that day, then it doesn't get done that day, as long as the animals are taken care of, fed and watered, and just making sure their well-being is where it needs to be, right? So if we're doing that to our animals, we need to do that to ourselves as well. I'm way up in the garden. There's ants all over the tarp here. I'm in front of my compost bins, and the lighting just isn't good at all. I'm in a wrinkled shirt. I don't care. So if I don't care, you shouldn't care, right? So where are you going to be when it all goes down? Now, I agree that it's going down right now, right? Everything is it's crowding us. It's starting to move into our personal lives, and it's not just another country. It's not another state. It's coming into our immediate space, right? It's affecting our livelihood. If you go to the store and your money doesn't buy what it used to, it's hitting close to home, right? If you spend $100 to fill your gas tank up, that's getting close to home, right? So it's not just out and about. It's coming into our livelihood. It's eating our livelihood. So where are you going to be when it all comes right onto your doorstep? And it gets worse, because it's going to. We all know that, right? Where are you going to be? Are you going to be one of those that are all panicked and, oh my God, what just happened? How come I didn't see this happening? Why didn't I plant a garden? Why didn't I get my turkeys? Why didn't I get a fishing license and learn how to fish? Why, right? Are you going to be one of those people? Or are you going to be one of those people that have been seeing this come, and you have been busting your butt trying to get things so you can self-sustain just a little bit, or at least have the items and the goods on hand that you need if something sure would happen, like overnight, right? So, because we never know when anything's going to happen. So, are you, if you're one of those people that have been preparing and could see this coming and have been busting your butt to help sustain yourself, you can relax a little bit more. You've got that peace of mind, right? You're just going to have to battle any idiots that are going to come and think that you're going to hand out, half of your garden to them, or come and steal your garden produce, which is happening too, right? It's happening. They're going to come siphon the gas out of your vehicles. They're going to steal gas cans out in your shed, or whatnot. Are you going to be one of those people that are going to be in panic, or are you going to be one of those people who are on guard protecting what you've worked so hard for? Now, for me, I'm not going to panic, because I have been working years on developing my homestead. I started out with, as my house was being built in the fall, I started out with 4 raised beds. Now I've got close to 80, folks. Okay, and it's been a while, but every year my garden expands. Every year I put in new rows, and I shift things around a little bit. So eventually I'll be getting rid of my raised beds, and I built this soil up enough so I could have what will look like a normal garden instead of raised beds. So this year I've taken probably 10 or 12 raised beds out and formed that material into garden rows. And it is what it is, and it's working fine. That's been the long-term plan anyway. So I know times will get hard. I know they will. And for some of us poor folk, we can already see this hurting our pocketbook already. We can already see where we're having to cut back. Now, I had a gentleman pull in the yard the other day, and he said, "What's this I hear about the shit hitting the fan? What's all that about?" I said, "Well," I think hard times are coming, and I think people are really going to struggle. I said, even if it doesn't get any worse than this, people are going to struggle because people are already struggling. He said, "Honey, I ain't gonna struggle. I'm not poor." I said, "Well, that's good. That's good." He said, "I've got money." I said, "Okay, what happens if the dollar bill crashes? What happens then?" "Well, I've got stuff." I said, "Okay." I said, "I know you run a construction company, and I know that you've got big machinery. You've got several dump trucks. You've got all this expensive equipment. diesel's not going down. Diesel is going up. I said, it must be costing you more to run that machinery, right? He said, well, I just jacked the price up. He said, I put that into account that, okay, this is the price that I am going to quote them, and I am going to come in the head so the customer will pay. I said, yeah, until the customer can't pay, right? Until the customer can't pay. So there's that, right? And it wouldn't be his problem. You know, if he think money is going to buy all of that, but if there is no money, he's got all these items that he could sell, he said. But if diesel is so high and people aren't needing the work or wanting the work, then that he's not going to be able to sell that, right? He's not going to be able to sell the machinery. So I asked him if he had a garden this year, because him and his boys usually have this huge garden, folks. And they put in 3 tomato plants this year. That is it. No, they put in some artichokes because I gave them some artichokes to plant to get established. So they've got 3 tomato plants and the artichokes that I gave them. So, and I know his freezer just pooped the bed about 3 months ago. And he didn't go out and get another one. And then he just bought 2 cars, folks. He just bought 2 cars because the first one he bought because it was easier on gas, right? Because gas is going up, and he's got a diesel pickup that he runs around in, and he's got some kind of Chevy pickup that takes regular gas. He said the gas was going up, so he bought a vehicle that was easier on gas, but then it wasn't comfortable. So he went out and bought this big fancy car, folks. And he said that was more comfortable to get in and out of, but he didn't like how it rode. So he said he bought the 2 cars, so depends on if he feels like climbing in and out of the low one, or he wants a bumpy ride because the suspension is so stiff on the big one, he can just swap back and forth. But he bought 2 vehicles, 2 cars, because he didn't like the price of gas and diesel that was going up. So he spent money to save money, but he's still behind, right? And he even said that too. He said I couldn't make up my mind, so I just kept both vehicles. So, you know, the reasoning of some folks, I don't know, if you've got all this money and you think money is going to get you by, and then that's perfectly fine, that's great. But if the money ceases, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, especially if you don't have a garden. I've never known this man not to garden before. I mean, when I say acres of garden, folks, I mean acres of garden. And they eat fresh, and they do give a lot away. Like every year he brings me up 10 or 15 pumpkins for my birds, right? So he does give a lot away. But I wouldn't want to be counting on money right now. I just wouldn't want to be counting on money right now. I wouldn't want to be counting on the economy. I wouldn't want to be counting on somebody else to make sure that I am fed. I am going to make sure, and I have been working so hard to make sure that I have enough food for me. Okay? So, but what is that food? What is that food if I have worked myself to death? What is that food? That food is going to sit there, or somebody's going to come in and say, oh, free food, right? Well, she planted all this garden and she's got the birds established, and wow, I can feed myself, and I really didn't have to do anything, right? Until it runs out. So we have to take care of ourselves. We have to self-sustain as much as we can, folks. And if we can't self-sustain, then we need to be getting our butts in gear and getting food to store. Now is the time to start canning or learning how to can. Now is the time to start drying or freeze drying food. Now is the time to learn water bathing. Now is the time to learn how to garden. Now is the time to learn your foraging, your edible plants. Now is the time to get your butt in gear if it isn't already, so you won't have to rely on somebody else, whether it is in good intention or through thievery, right? So I'm going to be doing a few videos today. So this one is longer than I wanted it to be. And maybe I'll find another spot so the sun won't be so irritating to me. So that's what I've got so far, folks, and look for another video today. Thank you.